Royal moment, Prince Christian's gentle gesture that melted Princess Leonor's heart. It began as a formal occasion. A night of duty, elegance, and diplomacy. Cameras flashing, royals poised in perfection, every movement rehearsed, every smile measured. But in the middle of all the grandeur, something unexpected happened. Something small, something human, a gentle gesture, so simple, yet so powerful, that it melted the heart of a future queen. Princess Leonor of Spain and Prince Christian of Denmark stood side by side that evening, attending a European royal engagement in Copenhagen. It was the first time in months that the two young heirs had been seen together in public since their much-discussed meeting in Madrid. The atmosphere was charged with curiosity. Every journalist knew, all eyes would be on them. The event was a state reception celebrating youth leadership and cooperation between European nations. The room shimmered with gold and crystal. The air carried the faint notes of a string quartet. For most, it was another royal occasion. For Leonor, it was something else entirely. She had been nervous. The Spanish delegation had arrived earlier in the day, and despite her years of training in royal protocol, Leonor couldn't shake the flutter in her chest. She knew he would be there. Prince Christian, the boy who had, without a word, managed to leave a mark on her heart during that unforgettable night in Madrid. The doors opened, and there he was. Tall, calm, and impossibly composed, Prince Christian greeted the Spanish delegation with a respectful bow. His eyes found Leonor's almost instantly, and that familiar, unspoken warmth passed between them. No one else seemed to notice. But she felt it. That small shift in her chest, the reassurance that she wasn't alone in that sea of expectation. As they walked through the hall, a camera flash startled Leonor. She flinched, just slightly, but enough to be seen. Without hesitation, Christian turned toward her and extended his hand, not in an overtly romantic gesture, but with quiet sincerity. A simple motion, offering stability. And she took it. For just a brief moment, their hands met. He gave a reassuring squeeze, just enough for her to feel grounded. It was instinctive, kind, and impossibly tender. The photographers caught it. A fleeting image, his hand gently guiding hers, her soft smile in return. But what the public saw as a fairytale photo was, in truth, something deeply real. Because that touch wasn't for the cameras. It was for her. After the event, the image went viral within minutes. Headlines exploded across Europe. Prince Christian's gesture that melted Leonor's heart. The future king protects Spain's future queen. Social media buzzed with interpretations. Was it love? Respect? A signal of something more? But the story didn't end there. Inside the palace walls, the gesture sparked quiet conversations. In Zarzuela, Queen Letizia reportedly smiled when she saw the footage. "He's a gentleman," she said softly. King Felipe, however, was more measured. "It's natural for people to connect," he remarked. "But nature must be balanced with duty." Meanwhile, in Denmark, Queen Mary was shown the same clip. She recognized that look, the quiet instinct to protect someone you care about. "It reminds me of you," she told her husband with a grin. Crown Prince Frederick laughed. "Perhaps it runs in the family," he said. But for Leonor and Christian, the meaning of that moment went beyond headlines or royal whispers. It was the culmination of something that had been quietly building, a connection forged not through grand gestures but through quiet understanding. As the evening continued, the world saw more subtle exchanges. The way Christian stepped slightly aside to let Leonor pass before him. The way she glanced back to thank him with her eyes. The mutual grace of two young heirs who seemed to understand each other without words. Later, during the dinner, they were seated several seats apart, but close enough to exchange occasional smiles. Observers noticed that every time she spoke, Christian's attention never wavered. When she delivered her short speech, fluent, poised, and heartfelt, he was the first to applaud. Those seated nearby claimed that after the speech, when the applause died down, Christian leaned subtly toward her direction and whispered something to a Danish aide, who smiled knowingly. Moments later, a small floral arrangement, a simple white rose, was discreetly placed near Leonor's place card. No one said it came from him. But everyone knew. And that was the beauty of it. No grand declarations. No overt displays. Just gentle gestures. Little signs of affection wrapped in royal discretion. But what made that night unforgettable wasn't just the public kindness, it was what happened behind closed doors. After the dinner, as guests began to depart, the two heirs found themselves momentarily alone near the grand staircase. A cold wind slipped through the open marble corridor, and Leonor instinctively rubbed her arms. Without a word, Christian removed his suit jacket and draped it gently over her shoulders. Her breath caught. She looked up, meeting his gaze, steady, sincere, and full of warmth. "Thank you," she said softly. He smiled, a quiet, knowing smile. "You always carry the weight of a crown, Leonor. Let someone else carry it for a moment." It was an innocent remark, yet it struck her deeply. Because in that sentence, he had seen her, not the princess, not the heir, but the girl beneath the crown. For the first time that evening, Leonor allowed herself to relax. To breathe. And in that silence, surrounded by the echo of footsteps and the glow of chandeliers, something beautiful passed between them, something fragile, but real. That was the moment her heart melted. Not because of grandeur or charm, but because of gentleness. Because in a world where everything was orchestrated, he had been authentic. When Leonor returned to Spain, that night lingered in her mind. Every detail, the touch of his hand, the weight of his jacket, the warmth in his words. She had grown up watching her parents' love story, a union built on respect and understanding. But now, for the first time, she felt a glimpse of what that truly meant. And as fate would have it, the world wasn't done connecting them. A month later, they would meet again, this time in Oslo, during a royal celebration hosted by Norway's Crown Prince Haakon. Once more, the crowd buzzed with anticipation. Would they greet each other publicly? Would they acknowledge the rumors? When Leonor arrived, she greeted the Norwegian hosts with her characteristic grace. And then, from across the room, she saw him. Prince Christian. This time, she didn't hesitate. Their eyes met, and both smiled, warmly, naturally. As they approached each other, there was a sense of familiarity, comfort, trust. He bowed slightly. She curtsied in return. "Leonor," he said, his voice calm, "it's good to see you again." "And you, Christian," she replied, unable to hide the happiness in her tone. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't staged. It was simply genuine. As the night unfolded, their rapport grew evident again, the quiet laughter, the shared glances, the gentle manner in which he guided her through the crowd when cameras surged forward. Once again, he instinctively placed a hand at her back, steering her safely through. And once again, her heart melted. Observers called it the royal friendship of a generation. But to those who truly watched, it was something more. It was the emergence of two young hearts learning to navigate a world that demanded perfection while longing for connection. Later, during a quiet balcony appearance, a gust of wind blew through the Norwegian palace gardens. Leonor's hair shifted across her face, and before she could adjust it, Christian subtly reached out and brushed a strand aside, so gently, so respectfully, that even the stoic crowd below gasped. That image, his hand mid-motion, her eyes soft with gratitude, circulated across Europe within hours. The touch that spoke 1,000 words, read one headline. But what no article could capture was what came after. When the night ended and the royals retreated indoors, Leonor turned to him and said, quietly, "You always notice when I need help, even before I do." He smiled. "Maybe I've been watching too closely. Or maybe," she said with a small laugh, "you just understand me." He didn't reply. He didn't have to. The look in his eyes said everything. From that night onward, their bond deepened, not in grand gestures but through constant grace. In a world built on rules, their connection was defined by kindness. And perhaps that's why it touched so many hearts. Because amid the endless royal ceremonies, the speeches, and the duties, Prince Christian's gentle gesture reminded everyone that love, real love, isn't loud. It's quiet. It's the way someone reaches out when they don't have to. The way they see you when the world only sees your title. That one night in Copenhagen, a future king didn't just act like royalty, he acted like a protector. And in doing so, he melted the heart of a princess. And maybe, just maybe, in that moment, he also changed the future of two kingdoms.